I'm going to show you how I made over $1.5 million on my first deal. I'm going to show you all the strategies I used. I'm going to tell you all the mistakes I made so that you can do it too.
You never forget your first.
That's for sure.
All right, your first deal. Now, look, I've known you my whole life, but I've known you in the context of you being a real estate investor now for almost 30 years.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy. Time flies when you're having fun and making money. But look, you always weren't the successful investor you are today. In fact, everyone has their origin story. Everyone has that first thing that they did, that first spark that lights the fire of your whole career. And I think for a lot of the people watching here, they're going to be attempting to do their first deal. And that's why they're interested in learning more from you. So I think you sharing all those details, how you came from nowhere to build, everything you've done is going to be really, really helpful to the people watching.
Well, I hope so, because that's truly the fact of the matter is that we really didn't come from anything special, right? We came from a lower middle class family. We had public education. We weren't born with a silver spoon in our mouth.
I was born with government cheese in my mouth.
Right? The government cheese is the best, right? Remember lining up?
100%.
When that brick would come?
I loved it.
Nothing makes grilled cheese.
Kept all my baseball cards in the government cheese box.
Well, it's perfect size.
But, times have changed. We're not quite on government cheese anymore.
Well, you know what? But the idea that the government can give you a lift is certainly something that I think is in popular culture today with all of the debt and the other things that people are seeking. But here's the thing. When I got started, as you mentioned, I didn't have any education. I had no understanding of real estate whatsoever. I had no money, and my credit was destroyed. My career is built on actual failure, right? We had that massive failure. I was in the computer manufacturing and distribution industry. We were doing quite well, and I thought I was set up for life, right? Here I'm 21 years old. We're doing millions of dollars a year in sales. The company is growing. I thought I had a stake in that company. Ultimately found out that I was really being played, and I got into business for myself. And when I did that, I made the mistake of getting a bad partner. And I didn't really know how to vet somebody at that time. He just had the money, he liked my ideas, he believed in me, and so we really got off to the races. And within about 6 months of starting that company, he had a huge problem with his IRS filings.
Oh, Lord. IRS, a lot of fun.
It really screwed everything up, and I found ourselves maybe really backed into a corner where the career I thought I was going to have went away.
Yeah, I remember when you're in that. I mean, you were doing great. And I think a lot of people early in their professional careers, they'll go and find a job, they'll work for someone else, they'll kind of let someone else be the master of their destiny, and they think it's always going to turn out great. I'm going to continue to advance, or this industry is going to continue to grow, and I've done it. But I think studies show that most people change careers 6-7 times in their lifetime.
Yeah, and it's getting worse now.
Yeah.
Right? It's even getting even more hectic in that frenetic pace of what they're going to go through. And so I would tell you also that one of the things that's really been a huge component is that doing commercial real estate is not a monolithic thing. You can still do other things while you do it. So that was a huge help for me because I was able to actually work a job while I was getting that whole thing figured out.
So tell them how that first company crashed out, because a lot of people watching this have probably experienced something similar too.
So we got started. I found an investor who would help me build this company, manufacturing and importing, and he claimed he had all the revenue that we needed to be able to sustain our operations, inventory, et cetera. And about 6 months in, we really started to outgrow what he was going to contribute. The sales were so strong. We had our receivables. We had inventory needs. And I'm getting ready to expect our next slug of capital infusion. And all of a sudden, there comes this knocking on the door. And here it's this guy. He's like, Scott, I got a problem. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm like, sales are great. We're killing it, right? I just opened up a brand new government account. It's going to offer us about $3 million in additional sales just for this one account. And our profit margins at the time were about 30%. So we're making some pretty good money for what we're doing. And he said, no, it's worse than you even think. He said, the IRS has flagged my tax return. They did a full audit. Ooh. They went back 7 years and none of it went well. He said, in fact, they're really telling me that this has got to get paid now. So I need all my money back. And I said, well, you've got to be kidding me. So we just got started. This business is flying, right? You convinced me to come to this company, in fact, to build it with you. And he's like, look, Scott, I apologize. I didn't foresee this. There's no way to know.
You didn't have the money in your pocket?
I had nothing,
right?
It was all based on his ability to back my reach, talent, and network. And so in the end, we started getting into it. And I'm like, look, I'll get you paid back in 6 months, 9 months. Sales are good enough. He didn't have that much. He was probably $500,000. Long story short is, we started getting into it. I'm like, well, look, what if I could make a payment plan to the IRS for you? He wasn't hearing it. He's like, look, Scott, this is the IRS, man. They're threatening jail. And I remember clear as a bell. I looked at him. I said, well, how long? Because the reality is like, well, if it's only a couple of months, let's tough this thing out. There's millions of dollars on the table.
How long, dude? I would have been like, wow.
Yeah, you bastard, right?
Yeah,
and that's exactly how he looked at me. And so, he got really angry. He said, it's over. I'm taking all the money. So that's what he did. He drained all the bank accounts, sold off all the inventory, paid none of the bills, left me holding the bag.
Sounds like a great guy.
Well, we ended up patching it up down the road. And so maybe that's another episode. But at the time, it devastated me. I was 24, about to turn 25. I'm $500,000 in business debt and personal debt, $400,000 in business debt, $100,000 personally. My credit score went from about a 700, which is about as good as you can get at 24, because you got to have length of credit too to really get into that upper 800 tier if you're looking and you're trying to patch up your credit. And you always should, by the way. You always be working on making your credit better. No matter who you are, it can always be better. Borrowing power always can improve. And so I went from a 700 to about a 500. So now I'm completely unlendable. I'm out of cash. I'm getting, I'm being evicted from the apartment that I'm in because he owned it. He's like, convinced me, hey, move into this apartment that I own while we're getting started to save overhead. But as soon as this thing crashes, he's kicking me out on the street. Huh. So it takes all my money, credit's ruined, and I'm trying to pivot, trying to figure out what I'm going to do next because I talked about that company that I was originally with, and this is the company I started. So I went in direct competition against them, and they were the only ones within a 3-state, radius that did what I did. So I've got no job prospects. So, it's getting ugly.
Sounds like a perfect foundation to build a commercial real estate empire.
Well, it's surprisingly, in my mind, it is the perfect foundation. I had to get backed into a corner.
You
right?
Crazy son of a bitch, you might just be wild enough to do it.
I had the gumption.
You're right.
And so the idea was, I'm like, look, if I didn't have that absolute demand and need to figure something out and to reinvent myself, I don't know that I ever would have done it. Because what I found was that I had already had real estate in my periphery. Mm-hmm. And I could have acted on it for years, but I never did. It was only when that normal stream of income started to suffer or, I just couldn't figure out a way to get out of this debt without filing bankruptcy, which I never did, by the way. I did pay everybody off. It took, not that long, actually. Much less than the time that you would think. So if you've had some financial hardship, that does not preclude you from getting involved in this business because your credit isn't really actually essential.
Yeah.
The investment that I didn't know at the time in the building itself is oftentimes what helps you bring the resources to acquire it.
Yep. So you're getting kicked out of this apartment that bro owned. You lost your business. Now this is all happening in Cleveland, Ohio. Now this is not to make light of the unhoused, as they call them today.
is that the new term?
That's the term. And, nothing but compassion for them. But there's better places to be unhoused in the world than Cleveland, Ohio. Like
it was December in Cleveland, right? So it's like it's freezing. It's like the Himalayas without mountains.
Right.
It's like 9 degrees outside, Fahrenheit, by the way. And we're sitting there, and I'm like trying to figure out what's going on. And I remember I got a call from my mom. It was right around Christmas. It's just after my birthday. And she calls me up and she's like, honey, I heard things aren't going so good. I'm like, yeah, it's not great, Mom, but I'll be fine. She's like, that's not actually what I'm hearing. She's like, I'm hearing you're living in a building downtown. I'm like, yeah, that's true.
You're a squatter?
She's like, I'm hearing that it's actually a vacant building with no real utility.
Yeah, Mom, I changed my name to J Squat Scheel.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely living someplace that I don't want to live. I remember, in fact, coming back one time after having been gone for a couple of days, and my bed was being used by prostitutes. That's a real thing. That actually happened. And I'm like, you got to be, at that point.
Did you turn to pimping?
I didn't. It was,
okay.
They weren't working for me.
I didn't know if that was part of the story.
It wasn't part of the story.
Multiple streams of income.
That bed was left behind. When I moved, because I eventually moved into my mother's house, she convinced me that, look, you're going to have to get back on your feet. You're not. You clearly made this total mess of your own life, so you're going to move in. Yeah. And I couldn't argue with her, so I did that. And I moved into her basement, and I'm 24. I'm about to turn 25, or just turned 25, actually. And I'm just so down on myself. I can't figure out how I ended up here. I had the brass ring right there for the taking.
Yep.
I reached for it and I landed square on my ass.
Yeah.
It was humiliating.
I'm sure your girlfriend loved it.
Yeah, she dumped me. There's no doubt about it, right? Yes, you know.
Yeah.
And it was. I can't really blame her, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm like pissed that she dumped me. I would have dumped me too. I was pretty negative. I had screwed up pretty bad. I moved into mom's house. I got no job prospects. I mean, I really wasn't a high draft choice at that point.
No. But she moved on. She labeled you as a bust too soon.
She did, because we did manage to recover.
You need to change the scenery, right?
But in order to make herself maybe look a little better and feel a little better, she did allow my dog to go into foster care.
Oh.
So I would go back and visit my dog with my ex-girlfriend, which is this total exercise in humiliation, right?
Well, because
people don't feed their emotions when they're like not doing good. So I probably put on 10 or 15 pounds, right? I'm sitting there eating my feelings, right? I'm struggling. I'm in mom's basement. I got nothing.
She wouldn't let you bring the dog there?
No, she wouldn't. She was sick at the time.
Yeah.
And so a dog would have exasperated her breathing condition. So my dog's in foster care. I go to visit it, and I'm humiliated every time I go there, right? And so this is what for me was rock bottom. Living in my mom's basement, 25, destroyed credit, failed business, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, girlfriend dumps you, can't even feed a dog. I mean, that's what life looked like. High school educated, no degree. I'm screwed, right? I mean, this is the end of most people's story.
Well, the way to sell the commercial academy vision. Like I hope the story turns around a little bit, because people right now are probably like, asking Siri to find the closest bridge.
Why the hell am I listening to this cat?
Yeah.
Right? Because we turned it around with one deal one time.
All right, so
it was
how's the story start to turn around?
So
Because you're a rock bottom. Basement, no dog, no money, no cash, no girlfriend.
Infomercial.
Of
course it did, right? It had to be an infomercial, right?
Right.
So I tried several infomercials
Refuge
first.
of the lonely and broken.
So I looked at a lot of infomercials along the way, and the one that seemed to make the most sense to me was a guy named Carlton Sheets.
Okay.
He had
the
this,
OG.
The OG. He had this no money down, no down payment real estate course. He's going to teach me how to buy houses.
No money down, no money at all. That sounds like me.
That sounds like I could. That's what I said. It's like, Scott, you're going to make $40,000 to $50,000 a deal. Just buy my course online, on the television. Yeah. And so, I'm like, this could really work, man. This could really work. And then I realized that I already had the course, right? The course is on the shelf, right? And it's like, look, man, you have had this for 3 years and you haven't acted on it. And I'm like, man, this sucks. I'm like, but that one probably doesn't work anymore. This is a new one. This is a new version updated for the 90s. I'm like, you got to get on this one.
Right.
So even though I already had it and I'm broke, living in mom's basement, I went ahead and I bought it again anyway. Only this time when it showed up, I listened to it over and over and over again. And I developed a mantra in my life that real estate was my ticket to freedom. It was the only way I could figure, because I was probably worth about $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. Mm-hmm. It's going to take me a decade to get out of my debt. If I gave up everything that I had, didn't live, I'm like, this is not going to work. I wasn't a six-figure earner at the time. I wasn't qualified for that. Now, I was a decent salesman, but I had to find a product that I could sell. So, I ended up getting a job doing computers again, and I made my $50,000, $60,000 a year. But as a side hustle, I started looking for apartments.
Yeah, but that $50,000, $60 a year isn't like what it was 2 years ago when you're making $60,000, because now you've got the business debt.
I'm screwed. Yeah. I mean, by the time I'm paying just the interest and the taxes, there's barely enough for me to live on it, and I'm barely keeping my head above water in my mom's basement, by the way. So I finally move out. I get the dog back. Everybody always wants to know if the dog came back, and the dog did come back, and the dog lived 13 years. At the time, she was maybe 2 years old when I got her. She went blind for 8 years, and she was still a terror. She would bite you blindly, which a lot of dogs don't have that level of aggression, by the way.
No, they don't.
She was a Chinese Shar-Pei, and I loved her. And she is actually part of that origin story that got me here, because I really wanted that dog back. I wanted to prove to myself and kind of to my ex that I could turn this thing around. So anyway, I'm out there and I'm joining these real estate investment association groups, and I'm looking at houses, and I wasn't impressed. Mm-hmm. They were working hard, they're running around, there's no scale economy. They got one project on the west side, one down on the south side. They're hours away from each other, and it's just a different job.
Yeah, and a lot of people watching this probably. A lot of them are going to be house investors, house flippers,
For
people
sure.
who are renting houses. And look, it's a great source of income. But look, you're watching this, you know the struggles. Always on call, always working, always dealing with tenants, always dealing with appraisals. Everything it's just always over and over and over and over again. It's not a very it's not a relaxing business to be in.
Well, what I found over the last 30 years is that the people who get into houses and do really well at it, the dream that they sold is you're going to have all of these houses. You're going to have 50, 100, 200 houses, and the tenants are going to pay those mortgages down, and eventually you're going to own them all free and clear. But there's never that time that really comes. There's so much that you have to repair. There's no uniformity across all of these diverse builds and different construction methodologies. By the time they pay them down, most people have rehabbed them to the point where they can't even pull their equity out. They're leveraged up to the point where the cash flow is meager. If they lose a couple of tenants, they're negatively cash flowing. It's a lot of work, and so they're looking for another way to do it because they like real estate, but they're also tied to the market. Right now, the housing market's maybe a little bit in the dumper. Interest rates are higher than they had been, even though they're at a historic low. Really, 6-7% historically is a great number, but not when you just had 2 and 3 and 4%.
Sure.
Right? So people are locked in with their interest rates. They're kind of captive, and so there's really not a way for them to continue to migrate. So it's slowed down quite a bit. But in commercial real estate, you don't really deal with that.
Yeah.
Right? You can always succeed because it's valued on cash flow, not on kind of what comps have sold recently.
So that's what they were telling you at the real estate meetings, right?
Well, what they were telling me was that there was a dozen ways to go ahead and start buying a bunch of houses.
Okay.
Fix and flips, you could do pre-foreclosures, you could do subject to, you could do lease options, et cetera, et cetera. And the folks who are listening, hopefully they're familiar with it if they've been in the house business. But the guys that do this over a 5 to 10 year horizon, they don't stick with it. It's not really a thing. It doesn't really build. And as I talked to different folks, I ran into this one guy. He was a little older, a little more well-fed, right? But he was the guy that when he walked in the room, everybody wanted to talk to him.
Boss hog.
He was, seriously. Like he'd pull in the caddy,
Yeah.
right, horns on the front. Not really, but so I finally worked up the courage to talk to this cat. And I'm like, listen, bro, I got to figure this thing out. He's like, I said, how many houses a year do you do? And what strategies do you use? And he gave me this look. I'll never forget it. It was very demeaning. And he said, listen, Scott, you poor, sad little man. He said, I don't do houses. I do shopping centers and office buildings. I do apartment complexes. I do housing subdivisions and land development. And a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, whoa. Now I'm onto something. Mm-hmm. I said, could I do apartments too? He said, well, of course you could. I said, could I do shopping centers? He goes, absolutely. I said, well, how would I do that? He said, well, you start out with a nice little 4-suiter, and then a 6-suiter, and then a 10-suiter, and then you get like a 20 unit. Then you'll do like a 5,000 square foot shopping center, and you'll figure out how to work with mom and pop tenants, and then you'll graduate to a regional shopping center. And I'm like, man, that's great. I said, but dude, I need money now. He's like, well, look, when you're my age, you'll be like me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be old.
Yeah.
I don't want to be old.
Yeah.
I need money now, man. I'm 25. I'm broke. I got to figure this thing out. So while I believed him that I could do it, I didn't think I could take that slow path. So I went out and started talking with a bunch of folks. And we have an aunt who was in real estate.
Sure.
Aunt Cheryl. And, I go to Aunt Cheryl. I'm like, look, Aunt Cheryl, I'm looking for some apartments. She's like, you? You don't even have a house, man. What are you talking about? You're going to buy an apartment complex?
Oh, you're finally moving out of mom's house. What size unit are you looking for? Loser.
Yeah, I'm not looking to move into the apartments, Aunt Cheryl. I'm looking to buy them, right? So anyway, she brings me this 9-unit efficiency. It was a former roadside motel. It's got this little laundromat in the front.
Yeah, they had moved your bed from the old place into that place.
Well, I couldn't afford it, actually, right? It was still only like $300 a month, and I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
But with the rents that I could project and what they had on the rent roll with seller financing, which was a huge part of it, right? I didn't have to go to the bank.
Explain seller financing.
So seller financing is when the owner has value or equity in the property.
Okay.
And they don't need all their money right away.
Mm-hmm. For a variety of reasons, right? They might not want to pay taxes. They might like the cash flow.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or they're comfortable with the asset. They don't want to manage it, but they still like to keep the rent roll and
interest
the cash
rates,
flow.
the arbitrage in the interest rates, they'll make more money, financing, lots of reasons.
They just made it worth more than it was ever going to be worth.
Yep.
And it's time for them to exit, but they don't really want to pay those capital gains taxes.
Yep.
So this particular property had all of the right elements. It could be cleaned up. I could get in there, make the those little efficiencies pretty nice. It was going to be paint and flooring, nothing crazy. Through wall air conditioning units, that most of them were good. I'd have to change out 1 or 2. So it's like a $20,000 rehab, but I'm going to have a 9-unit building. And they're all efficiencies, but they're still scale. And then I have this retail store up front, so I'm kind of mixed use in it. I'm feeling this is pretty good. So there was a lease that was coming due on the the laundromat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm gonna kick them out. I'm gonna lease some new equipment. There's hundreds and hundreds of apartments within proximity that don't have laundry facilities. They're gonna come to my place. I'm gonna make it attractive. And so I thought, well, look, I'll pay myself a rent, and that'll capitalize the building. So when I pay myself rent, the building's worth more.
So the business that you'd be operating would be paying the owner of the property rent.
Right. Gotcha. And I'm doing both sides.
Which is all totally above the board. That's what people do.
Absolutely. You become your own tenant sometimes when you can do, especially in retail. It makes sense.
Yep.
You're not going to move the needle in multifamily. If you occupy one unit, that's not going to help. Right. So I got these 9 units, and I did this deal. I put the offer in, seller financing. They accepted. I'm super excited. So I go line up, figure out how much it's going to cost me to buy this equipment, all this other stuff. I'm making like $7,000-8,000 a month, and I'm feeling great about this. Right? I'm like,
this is for a kid like you.
It was 150% of my annual salary,
yeah.
And I really didn't have to put much down. I was buying it for about $350,000, so I needed about $35,000 down. I had lined up how I was going to borrow most of the money. I had Aunt Cheryl contributing her commission, so that was going to help too. And just about the time I'm ready to close on this thing, they call me up. They go, Scott, great news. I'm like, what is it? He's like, we renewed the lease for 10 years with the laundromat. I go, no, that is not what I want. Dude, you just screwed the whole deal.
They just took all your upside.
Not only did they take all the upside, he goes, and they went from $800 a month to $1,000 a month. I'm like, that's not enough. $200 is not going to move the needle. I said I was going to get ready to make about another $3,000 a month. Plus I could pay myself 2 of it, capitalize that, and at a 10 cap, that $2,000 is worth $240,000 in value. My $350,000 buildings were worth $600,000, and I could sell it in a couple of weeks. That's the whole plan.
I do know that in all your contracts ever since then, and I've read a bunch of your contracts. You always have no negotiating new tenants while the property is under contract.
Yeah, not without our approval. You got to control that during that research time that we call due diligence, right? So I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I came to find out that it was actually his brother-in-law. It was the brother-in-law of the guy who was selling me the building. And it was a gross lease.
Oh, so you gave him a sweetheart deal on your dime.
For 10 years, I got to pay for his water, his electricity, his gas on a laundromat.
Oh, no.
Right? So it killed the deal. So it tanked the deal. So I'm like, all right, well, keep grinding. Keep grinding. So I really wanted apartments. So she comes back with this 24-unit apartment building. And it was in a real nice town, blue collar, but pride of ownership sort of neighborhood. And the guy's offering seller financing again. I'm like, this is perfect. But he wanted $900,000.
Oh, almost 3 times more.
Right? I got no money.
Yeah.
Right? And he needs 20% down. So 20% down on this deal, it's going to be like $180,000.
I can barely do $300,000. You know what? Let's take one 3 times as big.
Yeah,
perfect strategy, dude. You are a master.
Right?
At planning your life out. That sounds great.
Well, and here's what I came to discover. That scale of economy is actually what made it work.
That's right.
If I had done a smaller deal, it wasn't financeable. No one could see that I could create that upside through the scale of economy. It says, look, if I raise my rents $100 a unit on 24 units, it's $2,400 a month.
Yeah.
If I do that over the course of 12 months, I mean, I'm nearly $30,000 in extra revenue.
You do that on a 9 unit, that's $900 a month.
Right. And that's just not the same math. And so that $30,000 a year, again, simple math, it was 10 cap at the time, was probably fair, was worth $300,000 extra dollars. So I could buy it for 9, but now it's worth 1.2.
Yeah.
So here's the long story short. So I put this offer together and I send it out and I send it over to Aunt Cheryl and she's like, Scott, I got bad news.
Yeah, boy.
I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, there's going to be multiple offers on this thing. It just hit the market. I'm like, well, we're at full price. I did the math just the way Carlton Sheets taught me, which was exactly the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, like 24
single-family homes. And I'm like, yeah, this, that, and the other thing. So I screwed it all up, but it still didn't matter. But even with that bad math, I still thought I could afford to pay maybe $800,000. It was what it was worth. And I'm like, but if I start chiseling away at his price, he's going to look at the fact that I don't have any credit, I got no experience, and I'm raising all the money basically on the operations of the building.
You're 25, your eyes are too close together.
Yeah, right, short.
Smell
Let's
like
throw the short part in there, right? It's like, it's all off, right? It's like, I'm not sure I trust this guy.
Sure.
So I gave her the offer, and she called me back in like 2 hours, and I'm like, wow, that was quick. This is good news. I mean, there's no way she called back in 2 hours with bad news.
Right.
And she gives me this multiple offer scenario. I'm like, well, just submit it. We're at full price. She said, Scott, you don't even understand. I mean, these people have great reputations. I'm like, what are you trying to say? She's like, no, they got a lot of experience. I'm like, okay, well, I'll figure it out. It's only an apartment complex. How hard can it be to take out the trash, to show a vacant unit, to put paint on the walls? It's not that hard, and it really isn't. Just so you know, it's not hard. but I'm just going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to do the hard work myself and do the grunt work. You grunt worked with
Yeah,
me.
well, for everyone watching, he did not roll up his sleeves and do the grunt work. He paid other people to do that, me included, and he would recruit me and all my little derelict 15-year-old friends who were just trying to get enough money to buy a couple beers and a bag of weed when we were 15.
It was the cheapest parking lot I've still to this date ever done. I think $5,000 did the entire parking lot.
We didn't get no $5,000. We got like $100 each, dude.
Yeah, but that included the materials,
Okay.
right? That included the materials, right? So when your cost of labor is 20% of the material, you know you're won.
Yeah, that's
right.
yeah.
Usually it's about 300% labor.
Yeah, I learned that lesson. So that's going to be on my origin story, but mine's a villain arc.
I will turn you, my friend.
Yes,
I will
I'm
bring
sure.
you back to the dark side. So anyway, we go through the whole thing, and I submit the offer, and she's like, listen, Scott, it gets even worse than that. They have so much money, they don't even need the seller's financing. And I'm like, you got to be friggin' kidding me. So I slam down the phone. I'm like, I knew this shit wouldn't work.
Yeah.
You're a fool for buying this course. You're a fool for thinking that you're going to be able to figure out commercial real estate with no education. And by the way, the entry to these gates were barred. They don't want guys like me. They don't want people who haven't done it. They didn't want women. They didn't want children.
Yeah, go back and die in middle class mediocrity and live a life of quiet desperation.
You obviously don't belong here, young man.
Right.
So I ended up putting together a new offer. I went in the basement. I'm like, all right, I got to get this figured out. And so I wrote the offer for $918,000, 2% more than his full asking price. So nobody's going to go over ask.
Right.
And this was a pretty avant-garde strategy today. I know during COVID, a lot of people did it when they were buying houses.
Yeah.
That became the norm. But back then, this is 1993, right? This is pretty standard. This is not standard stuff. So I made the offer, and guess what? He took it, right? I'm like, shit, he took it. And I'm like, now I got to go out and raise $184,000. I don't have this money. So I went rattling my cup, talking to everybody I could. And I was able to show them how the rent on the building hadn't been raised in 5 years. There was a lot of room for cleanup. The parking lot could be cleaned up. The curb appeal could be cleaned up. New flowers, make it a little brighter, a little safer, a little cleaner. I was able to demonstrate to them that if I turned over the units and I cleaned them up, that I really would be able to bring those rents up about $150 per unit.
So why would they trust to lend money to you? Probably, knowing the fact that they all knew you and you had demonstrated without a shadow of a doubt that you couldn't even pay your own rent. Why would they think that you were going to be able to pay them back?
Exactly. And it was conclusive that I was not creditworthy.
Right.
But it was the building and it was the rent roll and the fact that it had been occupied 100% for 15 years running and had a 20-person waiting list. So I got a waiting list, I got depressed rents, I got the opportunity to grow those rents. It's in a great area. It was well maintained. The bones were great. It was just a little dated in its finishes.
So they're looking at you like, look, this dude's not paying me back, but this property, my stake in the property secures my investment in this deal, right?
100%. And the way that we had structured that purchase, not only was I able to pay the mortgage, I was able to pay all the expenses. I was able to give away a unit to a manager who did all the day-to-day stuff that I didn't want to do because you said I didn't really do all the grunt work. I planned to, but I found out that there was enough cash flow that I could continue to focus on buying new deals, cleaning this one up, getting the financing together, and learning more about real estate rather than, cleaning the grout in the lobby, right? So because of that, I was able to turn that around and to demonstrate to them that if I raise those rents, even to 60% more of what the market delta was, that I'd be able to pay them a nice 10% return. By cleaning up the units, I'd be able to refinance the property in under 3 years, and that I would be able to pay them back 100%, and then I was going to own that property. And even when I started, I had a $6,000 a month positive cash flow. So again, I'm making about $52,000 a year in my job, working 50 to 60 hours a week, and I buy this first building with no money out of my personal pocket. I'm servicing my investors. I'm servicing the mortgage. I'm paying all the expenses, and I'm still putting $6,000 in my pocket. I'm like, you know what?
It's pretty good.
You might be onto something with this commercial real estate.
Tell everyone about Mel. Mel's an important part of this story.
He's a huge part of the story. He's kind of my Gandalf.
Yeah.
Right?
He proved very much the Gandalf of this story.
He even looked like Gandalf, actually.
Yeah.
Right? He was the former mayor of the city. He had built the building. He had actually started a roofing company. He had started a tech company back, in the 70s when tech was with bulbs and gears.
Yep.
Right? And so he knew the building inside and out. And as a 72-year-old former mayor of the city, he was a pillar of the community. And so as I'm going through this thing, and he offers me this seller financing, he took the thing, he interviewed me. And he's like, Scott, he goes, I like the way that you're going about this. So you're doing it the right way. I'm gonna take a chance with you. But you better not let me down. I said, I will not let you down. I said, I will hand carry your mortgage payment to your home to make sure you get it on time. And I did. For 11 years, I hand carried his mortgage payment every month. And I would slip it under a little slate that he kept on a bench just outside of his front door. And I remember the first time I sent him a check, I dropped it off and I left. And he called me like 10 minutes after I left because he had retrieved it. And the payment, remember it like it was yesterday, $5,909.15. And the check I wrote him was for $5,909. I left the 15 cents off. And he called me up. He's like, Scott, where's my 15 cents? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I had no idea, sir. I'll be right back. He's like, no, you don't have to come back. He goes, but make sure that that's in there because without that 15 cents, the amortization table is going to screw up my accountant and I'm not paying him for that. I'm like, wow. I started to realize that 15 cents made a difference.
Yeah.
And I'll share a strategy with people at some point in time how I can help you take 10 cents and turn it into millions of dollars. And it's an absolute bulletproof strategy that works. But in this story, I understood that the precision.
You get really good at throwing dimes and hold up a bank.
Well, that's one way to do it there.
Look, I'm just trying to do creative strategies here.
So we ended up doing the deal, and I did. He wouldn't let me go look at all the units.
Yeah.
He comes back. He says, Scott. He goes, I'm a 72-year-old former mayor. I'm a pillar of this community. You're a 25-year-old kid. You've never owned a building before. If you start going through inspecting all of these units, I've got long-standing tenants. They're going to get nervous. They're going to think that the building's going to go to hell, and they're going to start moving out. And I don't want that.
Yeah.
So he only let me look at 2 units. And so I put together this really detailed list. I'm like, well, boy, I gotta figure this out. And I put together a post-closing inspection. So the post-closing inspection allowed me to go back after I owned the building, when I was the one who was responsible for keeping it full. And then I was able to compare it to the 2 units he showed me. Now, do you think he showed me the best or the worst units?
Showed you the best.
Of course he did, right?
Of course.
Everybody puts their best foot forward. And so as I got into some of those other units, they were a little more beat up. And I actually put together this huge list of deficiencies. So here I own this building.
Tell me the clause, because I know you remember this clause. Tell me it.
I do. All of the units which have not been viewed shall be in equal to or better condition than the 2 units represented as typical with respect to age, condition, and aesthetic appearance, or a credit will be given to make them better.
That is verbatim. That is verbatim. You're such a real estate nerd. That's crazy.
It is, and you know what? And
because look, and the reason I
don't
know
even know what I had for breakfast this morning,
right? Because I've used to help with those documents and put them together, and you put these in your documents, and I've seen that clause, and 100% that is word for word, like
it's literally
like a schoolboy reciting the Gettysburg Address, dude. That's crazy.
Thank you. It's literally tattooed on the inside of my skull.
Yeah.
So I went through this whole thing, and I presented him this list. And I sent it over to him, and I was a little sheepish because I knew what it said.
Yeah.
He owed me $80,000. I'm like, you owe me $80,000 in credits. And here I am, I'm getting $6,000 a month. He took the seller financing on me. So he calls me up right away when he gets the letter. And he's like, Scott, had I known you were going to do this, I would have never sold you the building.
Oof.
And I'm like, well, listen, had I had the opportunity.
Did he call you a fool of a took too?
He didn't like it.
That's a Gandalf reference.
He didn't like me. And I'm like, listen, dude. Had I had the opportunity to look at all the units, I would have offered you what it was worth.
Yeah.
Right? And you know I overpaid you. Yeah. He's like, all right, that's fair. He goes, all right, come to my office, be here in 2 hours. I'm like, yes, sir. He didn't ask me if I was available. He didn't ask me if I had anything going on. He said, be in my office in 2 hours. Yes, sir. So I show up in his office. He looks at me. He goes, Scott, I've been thinking about this. He said, will you take $50,000 and call it a day?
What'd you do?
My hand was out before I even knew what was going on. I'm like, yes. $50,000 is a whole year's salary in one day.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought he's going to give me a credit off of the payments of the building. He wrote me a check. I got a $50,000 check within 2 weeks of closing. I got $30,000 back for tax abatement. I got $30,000 back in security deposits. So here I am. I'm sitting on $110,000. And I had no money. I had no money 2 weeks before. I mean, I'm barely making my mortgage payments.
Did you go blow it all on blowing ladies of the night?
I actually did, and I put it back in the building.
Oh, that's smart.
And I paid some of my investors back. So people thought they're going to get paid back in 2 years. I paid 30% of the people that I knew the least, but also had the most money, right? And I paid them back within 2 weeks with full interest for a full term. And people were like, what are you doing? Why would you pay them full interest? You only had the money for 2 weeks. Because the next time I knocked, they were all ready to write me another check.
Yeah.
So I was building my private money network. So I closed on the deal. I got the $50,000 back from him. I put it back into the units, and I went to all of the tenants and I knocked on their doors and listen, your rent's going up. Like it or lump it, the rent's going up. You're dealing with 5-year-old rents. And I said, I can...
Like rents for 5-year-olds or like 5 years as market rents?
Yes.
Yes? Rent for 5-year-olds. All right, man, it's going to be 7 animal crackers and a juice box.
I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to eat juice boxes. No consumption of juice boxes. Far too much sugar. Can we just get water?
Just the box itself?
Maybe.
I mean, there's a lot of roughage in those. Anyway.
So we go through it, and I'm like, your rents hadn't been raised in 5 years. So your rents are going up. As you can check it, everybody else, by the time we get to your new rent, you're still going to be about $25 a month below the closest competition.
And they look around, and that's true.
That's true. But you're going to have a renovated unit because in apartments, they do it the wrong way, right? The way that they do it is you only renovate a unit when you get a new tenant, right? And you live in the same conditions you had in the beginning.
They do it like cell phone companies.
Right, exactly, right? It's like only new clients get the good deal, right? If you've been here for 3 years, you're going to have the same old shit that you had before.
Right.
So I went in and I said, listen, I'll give you new carpets, I'll give you new ceiling fans, I'll give you new faucets, new lighting fixtures, etc. And the carpets were on the side, actually. It was new kitchens, new baths.
You gave them an option, like for this amount you can get this, and for this
and
amount
that's
you
gonna
can
have
get
to sign a
door.
2-year lease for.
Yeah.
But your rent's going up $150 a month.
Either way.
And I'll be able to renovate this for you over a weekend. And so then what ends up happening is a bunch of people liked it, but a bunch of people were like, look, the thing that's really bad here is the carpet. I said, all right, well, if you sign a 3-year lease, I'll still keep your rent at $150. So 3 years from now, you'll still have 5-year-old rent.
Yeah.
It's below the other guys already. I'm not raising it. It'll be fixed for that 3-year window.
And a 3-year lease on an apartment is not very common.
It isn't common at all. And what it did for me was it gave me that major rental bump year one.
Yeah.
So I could get back in and get it refinanced. And it also allowed me to have that consistency where the tenants were going to stay for 3 years.
Yep.
Because if you get them to hold over for the second year, you make about 15 to 20% more. If they hold over for a third year without a renovation, you're usually making 30 to 40% more
because
than
you're not
you would.
blowing it on a new renovation to move in, move out.
Yeah, and commissions and leasing
And your
marketing.
plan was to refinance in 3 years anyway, so that's great.
And so we were able to get it done in under 12 months. So we renovated all the units. All the tenants, chipped in for their own carpet. The way that I did it was I said, if you want carpet and new paint, if you sign a 3-year deal at $150 extra a month, I will let you pick your own color of your carpet and paint as long as you pick it off of these color palettes.
Yep.
And so it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't like rainbows and kitties. And
Funny story. Actually, I became a tenant in that property.
Yes, you did.
I did, and I remember the rent was $865.
Okay, all right.
And
up from about $600 when I got it.
Right, it was $865, and I just had one of the standard units. And you did not give me the paint or carpet option, but I think that unit had already been done. But I did take one of the rooms and paint it neon green with a neon green ceiling. And when I moved out, you're like, dude, what the hell?
What the hell did you do?
What the hell did you do? I'm like, I don't know, I just thought it was cool.
I don't know, it was really pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know, I was just hanging out in there.
And a coat of paint, right? So I threw somebody in their coat of paint. We're off to the races, right? So I did that, and I went out and I was ready to refinance the property, and I didn't have any clue how to finance a piece of commercial real estate. I owned one.
Yeah.
I knew I could seller finance, but I didn't know how to go to a bank. So back then we had the thing called the Yellow Pages, right?
Yep.
So it was a huge book.
I'm sitting on 3 of them right now.
That's why you look taller than me for once. So we flip it open, and I go to the bank, and you start at A's, right? So I called Alpha Bank, right? And by the time they asked me questions, hey, what's your debt coverage ratio on that?
It's strong to fairly strong. 7.
Ratio 3 to 1. I didn't know what the answer was, right? I had no clue. Click, hang up. Call the next bank. Hi, my name's Scott Scheel. I got this apartment building. What's your IRR? Click. So what do you think you've put into the property, and can you present us with all of your invoices? Click. Right, so we did all the work. I'm like, I did probably $250,000 worth of renovations. We probably got it done for $80,000, right? Because we did the work. We elbow greased it.
But you're going through these banks, and they keep asking you questions, and they're tripping you up. And you're learning less in each bank you call. You're learning at one. You're putting together your contract one bank at a time. Like
one
Johnny
bank
Cash.
at one lending conversation failed after another to finally get all of the components that I need to be able to confidently answer their questions. So finally, at Republic Bank,
Republic
Bank, so A to R, right? And there's more than one per letter, so it was bad. Took me about 9 months to figure out how to speak the lingo, because there was no blueprint, right? Sure. Obviously, we give a blueprint at Commercial Academy, right? So
That's what's called a plug in the industry.
And by the way, if they're watching and they're interested, right?
Go to commercialacademy.com. You can see all the training materials he has. He has the Commercial Hub platform with all the extensive courses, the evaluation software, and then he has the live events. And if you sign up for the special offer of Commercial Hub on the website, you get the full thing. You get to try it out free, and you get to go to one of the live events that tens of thousands of students across all the country and all the world have went to and learned how to do all these strategies that Scott's teaching today, so you can do your first deal.
And they're all built on this first one deal, right? Yeah. So many of the strategies came out of that first transaction, and we've continued to expand on it. So we're going through all this thing, and I'm ready to refinance this building. And I call him up, and I got the loan lined up. It's ready to go. And I'm like, listen, I said, I'm going to have to pay you off because I'm paying you 9% interest, and I can get like 7% from the bank.
Mm-hmm. That's not what he wanted, though, because he wanted the cash flow.
He did, and he says
was
to me,
he upset?
Yeah, he says to me, he's like, listen, Scott, he goes, I figured this was going to happen. He said, but it is what it is. There's really not much I can do. I said, well, I do have an idea for you. I said, I can continue to pay your mortgage and give you the $5,909 a month.
And 15 cents.
And the 15 cents, mother. So he's like, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, if you allow me to do a substitution of collateral, meaning that you take your mortgage off of this building and let me get the debt on it, and then I'll buy another building and you can kind of have a personal guarantee and we can spread that loan over the other buildings and every other building I do along with my personal guarantee. I said, I will write an agreement through my attorney, and we've given this out to our clients, that says that at all times I'll have 125% of the outstanding balance of your loan in cash and equity. And I will report to you on an annual basis.
Okay, so look, there's apartment building A, and that's the collateral that he gave you in this personal loan, right?
Yes.
This private money. So you're saying, okay, look, Mel, I'm going to go and buy another property. The loan stays in place, but the collateral now is this new property?
Yeah, and the issue at the time was I didn't even have another property, so his collateral was going to be the cash. I was going to take what I owed him. I was going to put that in the bank until I bought the next property.
Okay.
And he's just going to keep getting these payments. So anyway, he agreed. Yep. Long story short, he agreed to it. And I went out and I got the loan. But to get the loan finalized, I had to get an appraisal. So I did all this work. I raised the rents, all this other stuff. And I get this appraiser's coming out. We got this meeting. And I look at the property. I'm like, what's going to make it look better? Mm-hmm. So he cleaned it up, new landscaping, cut the grass. We did the parking lot, striped it, sealed it. It's looking as good as this thing can.
Hey, wasn't that the day that you bought me baseball tickets and told me not to be around?
Yeah, you shouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
Go watch the Cavs.
Son of a bitch, now I get it.
So he shows up, and the appraiser's there, and as soon as his foot hits the ground, see that asphalt? Completely redone. This thing's good for the next 15 years.
His ass is not even out of the car.
Right? You are the appraiser, right?
Yeah.
He's like 6 other people had come through that weren't the guy. Yeah. So when he finally shows up, I show him all the stuff that we did. I'm like, you're going to want to write this down. Here's actually a list of what we did. Here's what it cost. Here's what the market price would be for it. I had to justify why it was worth more. So I gave him this thing, and he's like, all right, Scott, well, this looks pretty good. And I had even interviewed appraisers because you could do that back in the day. And this guy was confident he could achieve our value. And he comes back to me and he says, I'll have it to you in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks goes by, nothing. 3 weeks go by, nothing. 4 weeks go by, nothing. Finally, I call him. Yeah, Scott, he goes, I'm really struggling. I'm having a hard time. He goes, but I think I got it now. So he sends in the appraisal to the bank. Drum roll, please. After 10 months of hard work, all this money in the building, raising the rents, cleaning it all up, your new apartment is now worth $880,000. I'm like, you gotta be friggin' kidding me, right? There's just no way. I paid $918. I did all the work. I raised it. I did all the
great job, Scott. You do all this work, put all this money in, and you lost yourself $70,000.
Yeah, and you're going broke. Yeah. You can't pay your people back. You can't pay the mortgage. You're not going to be able to finance your way out.
Maybe all those people were right about you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm really who they thought I was.
Right.
So I did what most people wouldn't do. I actually went and I started dissecting the appraisal, and I'm like, this is crazy. He's devaluing the cash flow. He doesn't like the neighborhood. He's got the square footage wrong. So I called him up. I'm like, hey, John, would it make a difference if this was a 3-story building instead of a 2-story building? I mean, I know it's still 24 units, but it was his cost approach that didn't work. He's like, yeah, He's like, yeah, I mean, anyways, I'm really sorry about that appraisal. He goes, it worked on sales comps, it worked on income, but on the construction model, there wasn't enough there.
Yeah, if it's 3 stories, it'd be great.
He goes, of course it would be worth more if it was 3 stories. Why do you ask? I said, well, because it is. Here it had all this landscaping that had overgrown these ground level windows, and he just didn't pay attention.
French basement.
English basement.
English basement.
English basement. Yeah,
Well, no,
we're not bringing the French in.
No, my unit was the French basement.
Yours was the French basement.
Mine was the French basement. Everyone else was living in the English, and I was over there.
Highfalutin.
Highfalutin.
So, anyways, he's like, oh my God. And so I got him to adjust the appraisal.
Okay.
The appraisal went from $880,000 to $1.2 million.
There you go.
And I got a loan for actually $880,000. I had some taxes to pay off and some other things to settle up on that settlement statement. And so on that one building that I bought, no money down.
All right, so this is the summation.
This is the wrap up.
Now we've went through this whole story. You've went from the Shire all the way to Mordor, and now we're here. We're about to throw the ring into the volcano, right? So on your very first deal, where you started with no cash, no credit,
no experience,
yep. No friends,
no resources, no network, no understanding, no education.
Never even bought your own first home.
Correct.
How much did you make on your first deal?
So here's how it breaks down. I got $6,000 a month in cash flow from day one. I got $110,000 back in credit as a closing within 2 weeks of closing because I did that post-closing inspection we talked about earlier. Yeah. I got a credit for the taxes, and I also got the security deposits. And then out of the refinance, because he did do the substitution of collateral, I put one single check in for $848,383.14. I owned that building for 5 years. Yep, there's a copy of the check, right?
Here it is right here. I have a picture of that check right here.
It's a real check. We really did it. It's right there. And here's the thing. It changed my life forever.
There's the dog.
There's the dog. It's all there, right?
Look, so if you're here for the money, there's a check. If you're here for the dog's there too.
It all happened, and it's real, and it's verifiable. And so with that, nearly $1 million cash in my pocket, it changed everything.
Yeah, and then your whole career is based from that.
I bought the next deal. I bought the next deal. I mean, within the next 12 months, I bought probably another 130,000 square feet. Actually, a little more than that, because I bought a 105-unit building, multifamily.
You did.
I did the medical office building.
You did
I did
Green.
the 83-unit apartment building. I did the Coventry mixed-use apartments, retail,
Was
and
that
a great
26.
It was a 50,000 square foot building right in a college town. Yep. So I had, all the bars, the music store. I had the clothing stores, the cool
and all of that within
theater downstairs.
3 years of that first deal, but that first deal changed everything.
It changed everything, and I obviously got out of mom's basement. I'm now driving a car. I cleaned up my credit. I paid everybody back. And it was just that one deal one time that got me out of the way.
Got the dog out of foster care.
Oh man, and that was the best part, right? I mean, literally. I mean,
and she was probably looking at you. She's like, "Oh man, I sold a little bit short on this one."
Well, you know what? She says that now.
Of course.
Took a couple of years.
Took a couple of years. I can imagine.
She still didn't believe it. They all thought I was coming up with some sort of, yeah. He's figuring out some way to cheat the system, right? After 30 years, they finally believe it. Yeah. So in the end, I was able to make that my career. It was about 12 months after that I left my job forever. Mm-hmm. Never went back to the working world. Never submitted another application. What color is your parachute? My parachute is real estate color.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of folks coming to me saying, Scott, could you show me how you did it? Because the legend had started getting out that this kid who was down on his luck had turned it around and started buying apartments, never even did the houses. I started sharing that with people, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I made a commitment to myself that I would train. I would take 5 years because I thought it would look good on my resume when I meet the creator.
Yep.
Right? I said, I'll take 5 years and I hope to train 5,000 people in 5 years. And I organized my thoughts. I put together a software evaluation tool that folks could use that really broke it down, made it simple, straightforward, quick checks where they could figure out what they wanted in 10 minutes. And that part of my business exploded. I was still doing real estate, still do real estate to this day, tons of it. But I also have hundreds of thousands of students that have now been through this program. Tens of thousands that have come through the live programs where I've taught them over 4 or 5 days how to do it. But there are hundreds of thousands of people who bought the program and have learned online and have gone on to do literally tens of billions of dollars in commercial real estate. And it all started because I was living in my mom's basement and there was a dog in foster care.
Right.
It was that one deal, one time. And I didn't have it all figured out.
John Wick.
Well, it's true because I didn't wait until I had it all figured out, Ryan.
Yeah.
I had to take action because I was backed into a corner.
Well, when do you have everything figured out? Never.
Never, right?
Never. You're always learning more.
I'm only going to buy it if I find the perfect property in the perfect corner with the perfect offer, and when the sun's shining, the birds are chirping, and my wife kisses me, and the kids hug me, and the dog licks me, because that day happens every day, right?
Yeah.
Well, so honestly, I knew I was going to make mistakes, but I got out in front of it. I failed fast forward.
Yeah.
Right. And what happened was, I got all those mistakes out of the way, and they were pretty rudimentary mistakes because I stayed in my lane. I didn't go out and buy a shopping mall, right? Like some folks go out there and they lose their minds. Oh, you can buy it for $1. Yeah, but it costs you $3 million a year to operate. You're going to lose your ass.
Right. I always see people say, look, you could buy this castle in Scotland for $1. It's like, wow, let's go buy it. Yeah, okay, there's a reason. What you're buying yourself is a death trap.
Yeah, it's a money pit, right? And so we figured these things out, and I was able to put together a template that allows people to replicate that success on a very basic level. And I have to tell you, it's been my life's work. It's been the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. I'm so excited about what we're doing here because I think that this venue is going to allow us to reach so many people who want to do it, but maybe they don't have the ability, the resources to travel. And so this is, I think this is kind of the next phase, the next chapter of what we're doing with Commercial Academy. You've been such a brilliant mentor to me in the podcasting space with the things that you've been able to accomplish. I mean, reaching millions and millions of people all around the world. And so that's why I'm so excited that we're doing this.
Yeah. This is why I wanted to talk about this first deal, because for most people, their next deal is going to be their first deal. And that first one is the hardest. It has the most fear. It has the most unknowns. And you have the most people doubting you when you're doing that first deal. And
I always used to say this, there was a quote by Plato. It says, "To begin is the most important part of any quest, and by far the most courageous."
Right.
And so when you think about that, it takes courage to step outside of your comfort zone. But in this business, you don't have to burn the boats at the shoreline.
Right.
You can do it with the other things that you're doing, and that's really the key. Get the education. When you're making enough money off of the real estate, then quit your 9 to 5, right? Then you can go out and and take a little more risks. But I will tell you, I don't know too many people who have done more than 3 deals, and that this is not their primary
thing,
activity or their number one side hustle.
Right. So, I mean, for all the people watching, you're probably not homeless. You probably don't have a dog in foster care. There's probably not hookers sleeping in your bed. You probably are not $600,000 in debt from a bad business deal. Your mom's probably not looking side eyes at you while you go down in the basement to watch TV late at night. Yeah. Your girlfriend's not breaking up, or your boyfriend. You probably got a lot more going for you than this dude did when he got started. I mean, this is definitely something you can do, because I've seen him train tens of thousands of people with similar stories.
It doesn't matter what walk of life they come from. It doesn't matter what race, what religion, what creed, whether they're whether they're a native, whether they're an immigrant, how their language is. None of those things matter. What matters is taking that first step and following through consistently. I always tell people that in commercial real estate, and especially with Commercial Academy, your success is a when, not an if, as long as you don't quit.
Yep.
So just don't quit. I mean, I've had some folks, unfortunately, it took them 4 or 5 years to make that first multi-million-dollar check, but because they followed the blueprint and they didn't quit their job, they never went hungry.
Yeah.
And when they got that first check, the first $1 million plus check, right? I made $1.5 million on my first deal, made all the mistakes in the world. I bought it wrong, overpaid for it, mismanaged it, took too long to do it, had no money, no credit, no experience, didn't know how to finance it, and yet it still worked.
Right.
Most people can make more money in commercial real estate by accident than they can make in their primary career on purpose.
That's
true.
Crazy. That is a crazy concept. You make more money on accident in commercial real estate than in your regular career on purpose. That's true. Look, that statement right there is worth you clicking the like and subscribe button, because those are the kinds of things you're going to learn here on the Huge Profits podcast hosted by Scott. Again, go to commercialacademy.com. You can see all the different training programs that he has, all the different coaching, all the different softwares to help you achieve this similar success. And then you can connect with all of the students that he has had throughout, the years and throughout the world. Tens of thousands. You can go to one of the live events and meet people, find deals, find investors, find partners, and find a new way of living. Look,
we have quarterly events too. So we have quarterly events. I mean, you can
in nice places too.
In nice places. We're going to be in Orlando. We're going to be in Dallas. We're going to be over in San Francisco. We're going to be in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, which is a lovely place despite its reputation.
Not during winter.
Yeah, we won't. We'll do it in August, right?
Yeah,
We always do it
perfect.
in August. So we're going to bring you in where you get to actually meet the folks who are doing it. You don't have to necessarily go fully on faith, but you're also going to be able to get that education ahead of time right now, online through the Commercial Hub, or you can come to one of those live events and meet the people who have already experienced the success coming from places that may be similar to where you're coming from. So, again, this is not really a leap of faith on your part. It's just whether or not you believe in yourself and whether you think you can take action. And then, look, there's no major commitment. If you don't like it after the first 30, 60 days, then give up. But I'll tell you, if you stick with it, it's absolutely a game changer. Had I not done that first deal, Ryan, who knows where the hell I'd be?
Probably in Grandma's basement.
I hope not.
Yeah.
She sold the house 3 times now.
Yeah. You're still down there.
I'm still down there. You have a squatter.
But here's the thing. For everyone who's looking to do their next deal being their first, or maybe they made a mistake, or maybe they just want to learn even more advanced strategies. I mean, you did that one deal and it changed so many things in your life and so many people's lives. What would you tell people about this next thing and what they could do?
Yeah. Legitimately, it doesn't matter how small you want to start. It doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have. The deal itself is actually what generates the resources to be able to acquire it. And you'd absolutely want to work in your own backyard. Your backyard is the right place. But there are so many categories of commercial real estate: office, retail, medical office, apartments, warehouse, storage, land development, pad site development, yada, yada. We can go on for another probably 10 minutes talking about all the nuanced aspects of the different categories.
That's what the live event's for.
Right, for sure. But
this is a podcast. We're chill here.
For sure. But the point of it is to say that, look, you just get started. Find something that you like. Practice. If you find out that it's not really for you. If you don't have a lot of time, you probably don't want to be managing your own apartments because there's a lot of demand there. Right. You can get into retail or self-storage where it's kind of automated. You sign a lease one time, they pay you for 10 years. There are methods and strategies that'll serve your needs and your personal constraints, and they can get you there pretty quickly. And so by doing that, I've done it over the last 30 years. I've done, hundreds and hundreds of deals. I've coached people through hundreds of billions of dollars in transactions. So there's not much that you're going to be able to bring to myself, our network, or the many dozens of folks who are in this group who are here to support you, whether it's through Ambassador, Platinum, or Diamond faculty that's available all over the country. We have students in all 50 states, in 47 countries. And, so the idea is, it does apply to you, right? You can start at any time, but the one thing that people have told me consistently over the years, once they've gotten into it, is that they wish they started sooner.
What's it say on your arm there?
It only takes one deal, one time to change your life forever. That's our logo.
And that's been the slogan, the mantra of Commercial Academy for years, because it's true. And this deal shows that. It took one deal to change your life. And the lives of so many people forever. Just one deal.
When you talked about Mel, right? I'd love to wrap it up with the guy who got me started, because he took a chance on a 25, 26-year-old kid at a time when
he shouldn't have.
He had no real evidence that it was a good bet.
Yeah.
And he is aware of how that one moment of grace, that one moment of kindness to help somebody who really maybe wanted it so badly but wasn't maybe his best option, has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. He knows about the events. He knows about all the folks that have been out there. And it's, to him, more fulfilling than the money he got from the deal. He tells me that. And his wife tells me that. And as a tribute to him,
he's still alive.
He's still alive. He's about 99 years old.
Lord,
he's doing pretty good.
Which is pretty young for a wizard.
He's a very young wizard.
He's a pup as far as wizards go.
He's still involved in deals. I'm doing a deal right now that I gave him tribute equity in, because without him I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And it was in his hometown. I bought a defaulted CMBS deal, right, from a REIT. And it was taken back by Transamerica Insurance. They had $40 million in debt on it. We bought it for $4 million. And so those types of things came from this one deal, one time. So get started. We appreciate you being here, Ryan. I can't thank you enough for being here today.
I love being here for this story. I've heard this story a bunch of times, and it never gets old, and it always gets better.
Yeah, I get excited about it too. And thanks for listening. We'll look forward to seeing you next time on Huge Profits.